Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today I am talking about Avengers Infinity War. I saw this film when it came out in theaters this year, in 2018, and I really wanted to talk about it, but I was noticing that everyone was talking about this movie. It was one of the biggest films to come out in my lifetime, and I realized seeing it, I needed to give it a break. Just let it breathe, let it set in, and wait for it to come out, because there is a lot to talk about in this movie. I've decided to narrow it down to 3 specific things that I really loved about this film, and one thing that really bothered me. Now, that one thing is a spoiler, so I'm going to wait till the end after I recommend how you see this film to talk about that. The one thing I was really nervous about with this movie when I was going to see it was how the creators were going to handle Thanos. This character has been built up since Avengers. We've seen the Avengers take on huge forces like Loki, Ultron, themselves, and they've always been able to kind of come out on top in those situations for the most part. So the idea that Thanos is going to be that one character that is going to topple these people is kind of that moment where I'm like, oh no, he's going to be like the indestructible villain who's going to be all-powerful and there's no chance for the heroes and they're going to find some kind of BS way to get out of it. Oh god, this is just going to be a terrible, terrible movie. And it wasn't. The filmmakers knew how to properly handle Thanos. Of course, he is all-powerful, but he is not alone. He has 3 kids in this movie, and they are the brutes that I suspected Thanos to be. They're just big bad guys that fight and nothing else. Yet, Thanos is not handled the same way. Yes, he's strong. Yes, he's an all-powerful being, and yeah, he's got the Infinity Gauntlet. But he doesn't have the stones yet. The Infinity Stones that have been shown to us in all the other films, he has to acquire them. With that little element in this movie, the idea of him having to go after something to become this powerful being, and how his powers, as they progress through the film, are significantly stronger but have their own limitations, that was something that I actually found very, very impressive with the filmmakers, how they handled that. The battles between Thanos actually have some stakes. I'm always concerned for the heroes, but I'm actually understanding and interested in watching Thanos fight them. The other thing that I thought was really great is how they get us to empathize or understand Thanos. I think empathy might be the wrong word in this case, but understand where he's coming from, I think that is a more accurate statement, because his goal is very attainable in this universe. It seems really big. His goal is simply to wipe out a portion of the universe's population. But that is not wiping out everyone. And there's a reason for why he says a portion of the population, why he wants that as his goal as opposed to the entire world dominance. And we figure out why, and it's understandable. And then when we understand a villain's motives, how they're played, and like all the other factors that are brought into the character, allow us to understand them and allow us to find them either charismatic or allow us to attach some part of ourselves to them. Now, I didn't go that far when I saw Thanos, but I did have enough understanding to be like, okay, I get it. It's similar to like the Dark Knight, the Joker's plan to blow up the fairies. It's not attainable to destroy all of Gotham. We know that that's not possible, because if that happens, then Batman's destroyed and blah, blah, blah. We know that that's not possible. However, going after a very small portion of that, of blowing up a fairy, or going after a small portion of the universe, that is attainable. this universe has shown us in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that that kind of goal is attainable by our antagonists. So we have this feeling of tension throughout because it's like, well, he could do it. The second thing was the biggest note that I was reading constantly throughout the entire film. It was the character interactions. I have heard a lot of people make comments in terms of Disney films now that, ever since the release of Guardians of the Galaxy, that movies are having quote-unquote Marvel humor. Humor from characters that is just snarky and quick-witted, but they don't offer any substance towards stories or any substance to anything. It's just to be funny. And I agree to a point with that statement. I agree that a lot of movies try to add that kind of snarky humor that we hear so much of in films. But I don't think that it should be called Marvel humor, and I don't think it should be called that in a negative way. What I like to call it is character humor. The characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe have now established who they are. We know who these people are from all the films that we've seen, and we get to see those characters come to flourish in this environment. And the people that interact with this movie are the perfect people that they need to interact with. I was so worried about the Guardians in this movie. How would they interact with people? Who would they interact in? Like, how would it come about? And the first person they meet is the perfect person to meet for them. It's perfect for Star-Lord. It's perfect for Gamora. It's perfect for Rocket. It doesn't feel cheap. It doesn't feel like they're just trying to be funny. It feels like honesty. The characters are being honest about how they would actually react to something. And I've heard so many people say, well, this character isn't about this. This character doesn't make sense with this new change that they've made. And I'm like, okay, maybe, but the fact that it feels natural. It isn't just, well, they were acted this way in another movie, and now they're acting this way in another movie. It's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. But it does. The way that the characters are reacting in the story work. Not just for the characters' benefits, but for it to make sense within the story that has been constructed. But I also could feel sorry for them when they were having genuine emotions and feeling conflicted and sad and angry. Like, I understood that too. If the characters didn't connect with each other, we wouldn't care. They knew how to handle that, and they handled it in the best way possible. And that leads me into my third thing that I really loved about this movie. As this movie was going along, they were making sure that they earned their payoffs. They earned their ending. They earned their middle sequences. They earned everything that was being shown to us. They didn't just go, we're going to have this happen now. We're going to have this happen now. This person's going to meet with this person. This person's going to say hi to this person because this person, we know that you want them to meet. They didn't do that. They said, what is the most natural and organic way possible for this to happen and for this to happen, and move it along in a way that allows us to buy it, allows us to watch the movie and enjoy it, and not just poke holes into it. I do have to give a big label out to this, because there's something I really want to talk about, so spoiler warning for the very ending of this film. The problem I had with coming right out and talking about this movie right away when it came out was, while I was letting it sit, a bunch of people were just saying, oh, well, these people aren't actually dead. Like, the heroes that were lost to Thanos' victory, they're not dead. They're going to come back. They're going to come back, and because of course they're going to come back, because the studio's got to make money with these characters. They're not going to take them away and make us feel all bad and sad about it. No, they're going to come back for sure. For me, it was a moment where I just kind of realized I dismissed all those statements. It bothered me a little bit to just come out and talk about it, but I dismissed them, and I realized why do we care so much? Why do we care so much in saying and dismissing this movie and being like, oh, they're going to come back. They're going to come back. They're going to come back right now. I think it's because we care. Marvel Studios has given us characters and stories that we care about. And now, for the first time, we're seeing a movie where we desperately wanted a victory. We were being brought into the story of generic comic book movies, generic cinema, and it was like taking over our lives for so long. And now here's a movie that is part of a franchise that has gotten so much hate by so many people by being cliched and overdone, overused. And this movie says you don't get the happy ending that you want. This is going to happen and you're not going to know what goes on. My mom said the best thing to say what this movie was kind of like. She said it was like The Empire Strikes Back. How there was that emptiness, that defeat from the hero's side. Sure, it was a smaller franchise. It was just Star Wars and then The Empire Strikes Back. But people were probably saying, oh, Han's going to be okay. Oh, everybody's going to be okay. They're going to be fine. Because they cared. Because they cared about the stories. Because they cared about the individuals. What I'm trying to say is, what I loved about this movie so much is I actually could see a big business like Marvel care about their characters. I understand it's a business. They know it's a business, but it's not just a business. If it was, they would have made this film 7 years ago. They would have made this film like right after Avengers came out, and it would have been like, well, you know, make a few $1 billion and there. Probably get some terrible feedback from audiences and people. And we did it, because it's a business. They said no. It's not just a business, it's more than that. We want people to care about these characters, and they do care about them, because we care about them, and we make sure that the products that we make are a reflection of our love for these characters and for this story. And we want to make sure that you have that feeling of hope that they'll be back. You don't know. And I like that feeling of not knowing. I like that feeling of sitting and just kind of letting everything wash over and being like, I was exhausted by this movie. It allowed me to look back with the eyes of the kid that I was when I first saw Iron Man. A 10-year-old kid seeing that movie and just being like my jaw being on the floor, enjoying every minute of it, having fun. Because I haven't cared about franchise films for a long time. But this movie kind of gave me an opportunity to say, you know what? Maybe they are worth a chance. I think it was not just a great comic book film, but a very good movie. And the way that I recommend seeing it is seeing it in theaters, which everybody already has. But if it comes out again, see it again. And very important, though, if you do buy this movie, you are basically saying, I'm buying this and every other Marvel film that has come out. I'm committing to the franchise. I know a lot of people haven't, like myself, I have not committed to the franchise. But if I were to go out and buy this movie, I need to commit to every other film, the 19 movies that have come out before it. Because there's so much that you need to understand about the rest of the franchise to really appreciate this film. And I feel as if there are some people that will just be like, hey, Infinity War, let's check this movie out, and watch and be like, what the heck was this movie? It's like, well, you needed to do your superhero homework for about 10 years to really get what was going on. Before I get into my one little gripe about this movie, I wanted to give a shout out to a very close social media friend of mine, and his name is Austin Burke. Austin is a film fan who actually has his own YouTube channel. I'll leave a link in the description below. He reviews movies that are just recent, and he reviews movies that have just come out through Netflix and other kind of streaming services. The big reason why I want to recommend Austin Burke to you guys, and why I think you guys should definitely check out his channel, is because Austin has such a passion for talking about movies, and it's a passion that I rarely see in people. When he's talking about a movie or discussing something with his friends, he lights up. He talks about them on a critical side, but he hasn't lost that light in his eye, that enjoyment, that just giddiness that he gets. It's like when he's talking about a movie, it feels like he's talking about it for the first time. It's the first time anyone saw a film. He has this energy, this vibrancy about him that is so difficult to find in people without it being obnoxious and just cynical. I definitely recommend you guys either subscribe to his channel or check out just a few of his videos and build your own opinions of him, because he is someone that I'm really glad I was able to find, and I really hope that he starts getting the appreciation that he does deserve for how he's filming and what he's talking about, because he's really good at it. Now, the one little gripe I had with Infinity War, it's not a little thing for me. It's the end credit scene. This movie did such a great job with everything that was building up, the character interactions, the introduction of the new villain, and leaving the audience with a feeling of, oh my god. There was this emptiness that I've never felt in a film before at the end of this movie. And then the end credits scene happened. And I get it. They want us to kind of get ready for the next film, be like, oh, don't worry, no, hope isn't lost. At the same time, it really, really pulled me out of the movie. I just remember seeing the power of everyone fading away into nothingness and being like, oh my gosh, like, there's no music, there was just emptiness and confusion. And then all of a sudden there was like, oh, don't worry, we got a new movie coming out, don't worry, everything's gonna be better when this superhero comes out. I'm like, okay, just pause, let that sink in. Don't worry about setting something new up. Don't worry about it. You got us. This movie was great. Now just let us sit in it. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Thanks again for the support from me. And thank you so much for supporting Austin. I know he appreciates it, and it means a lot to me that you guys took the recommendation. So, thank you guys so much. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And as always, take care.